There is a war. It's happening now. It will decide the fate of humanity. The time to choose sides has come. We are the resistance. We are the info war.
Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, September 22nd, 2014, and here are our top stories.
Tonight, Big Pharma giant GSK is found guilty of bribery. And climate change activists leave garbage on city streets. That's next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Now NASA is coming out and saying, a NASA-funded university, and saying that we've got to pay the carbon tax or aliens are going to kill us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not joking.
Well, there's a huge scandal breaking in the UK. Of course, GlaxoSmithKline is headquartered there, but they are a multinational pharmaceutical company, and this concerns their business practices in China, but of course, it sheds light on the ethics of the company. GlaxoSmithKline is now going to pay a £297 million fine over a Chinese bribery network. Translated into U.S. dollars, that's about $485 million. In other words, about $500 million. GlaxoSmithKline has been found guilty of bribery by a Chinese court and has agreed to pay a fine of £297 million. Now, that's about the amount of money that they bribed doctors with. They said that it was a massive bribery network that was uncovered, and of course, the CEO and others were threatened with a jail terms as well as large fines. It looks like that is not going to happen. We also had revelations of a sex tape of the CEO in China, the GSK CEO in China, a man named Riley and his girlfriend. It was mailed to 13 company executives last year. The Guardian also points out that a detective that was hired by GlaxoSmithKline to investigate who made that sex tape, who mailed it to the executives at GSK, that detective and his wife now are going to jail. Another reminder that although the CEOs and the executives may go scot-free, the minions are going to pay for it, just as they did in the Piers Morgan snooping cases. Now, in this particular case, the sentence that they're getting is 2.5 years in jail and about £20,000 for the husband and slightly less for his wife, both sentenced to jail. GSK had hired them to investigate why the company's then head of Chinese operations, Mark Riley, had been filmed surreptitiously having sex with his Chinese girlfriend in his guarded luxury home. Now, the interesting thing about this is that they came back and in their defense, they said the majority of their work was done using public information. They said that they use internet searches, interviews, and site inspections. In other words, it sounds very much like what Google does to you and I. But the Chinese prosecutor said, do you think it would infringe upon your privacy if your husband or your son's private information was bought and sold? Well, quite frankly, I think it does. And I think that Google does that all the time. But of course, there's one set of rules for Google and the people at the top, and there's another one for those at the bottom. Now, the GlaxoSmithKline ex-boss, Riley, was not given a jail term. He was given a 3-year suspended sentence. Now, remember that it was just last week that we learned that GSK had actually dumped live polio into the water supply into a Belgian river. 45 liters of concentrated live polio were dumped into the water at a Belgian treatment plant earlier this month. And at the beginning of September, we learned that their Ebola vaccine was going to be given a fast track. And in fact, they began testing it on humans at the end of last week in the UK. But they're not the only ones who are bribing. Look at what is going on at the lowly 7-Eleven. You have 7-Eleven essentially bribing their managers to get their employees vaccinated with a flu shot. And look at what they're doing. They're not bribing them with hundreds of millions of dollars as they did in China, GlaxoSmithKline, but 7-Eleven is offering their managers to get 3 days off with pay if they can get 50% of their employees to get vaccinated and, of course, vaccinate themselves. What kind of bribery, what kind of payback are they hoping to get out of this? Do they think that this is going to reduce their downtime? Do they not realize that people who are vaccinated with a flu shot are far more likely to get the flu than those who are not vaccinated? Something that was pointed out last year for us by Piers Morgan. When he got his flu vaccine, actually, he came down with the flu right away, which caused Alex Jones to offer a $1 million reward if he would get 1,000 vaccinations. And of course, he broke it down. It wasn't just the flu vaccine. He said, get 500 flu vaccines, 100 anthrax vaccines, 100 polio vaccines, Gardasil, hepatitis, meningitis. We'll break that down. I'll pay you $1 million because Piers Morgan was saying vaccines are not only effective, but they're safe. Yes, they gave him the flu. And so now we see that 7-Eleven is bribing their managers to try to get their employees to take vaccines. Doesn't this strike you as strange? There's a lot of profit to be made is the point. GlaxoSmithKline can pay doctors in China $500 million in bribes because they're going to make so much money if they can sell their vaccines, if they can sell their drugs to people who may or may not need those, for whom it may not be the best solution. Stay with us. Right after the break, we've got more news from the UK. Maybe not just fraudulent vote counts, but maybe some fraudulent promises. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Dr. Group. Today, I'm proud and excited to announce a new product to the InfoWars Life product line. Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder. Backed by real FDA-approved phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. People are suffering from all kinds of digestive issues these days. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water, everything that you're exposed to on a daily basis ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. My main focus was to come up with a remedy for this, something that's safe and effective that anyone can take on a regular basis to keep their intestinal lining clean. You have over 30 feet of intestinal lining that can be compacted, that can be toxic, that can be full of parasites, fungus, bacteria. What are you doing to keep that clean and flushed out? My recommendation is to clean your intestines at least 2 to 3 times a week to prevent the toxic buildup from going into your bloodstream. You owe it to yourself to take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.